Namaskar. Welcome back to the birthstone rectification. In the part number 2 video, in the birthstone rectification process, we are going to discuss on the different methods in birthstone rectification and their advantages and disadvantages. Let us discuss now. The methods followed in birthstone rectification, in general, we are going to discuss. There are three methods we can take majorly we are following. One is that, first one is fixing the lagna or ascendant rulers of the birth chart with the help of ruling planets at the time of analysis. Suppose we are taking a chart for analysis. At the time, which are the ruling planets are running, based on that, with the help of the ruling planets, fixing the lagna or ascendant rulers, especially sublord of the ascendant, because that is one which is going to change in minutes, as we discussed in the previous video. So with the help of the ruling planets, adjusting the ascendant or fixing the lagna ruler. Second one is genetic and karmic connection between the cuspal sublord of your house and the moon position in the birth chart of the respective relative denoted by the cusp. For example, ninth house is denoting the father, right? So, for example, ninth cuspal sublord and moon position in the father's birth chart. It means if you take the ninth cuspal sublord in the birth chart, it is connection to the, if you take the father's chart, the father's moon will have connection to the ninth cuspal sublord in the son's or child's birth chart. Actually, ninth rulers will have connection. Complete rulers should have connection directly or indirectly. But importantly, ninth cuspal sublord will have significant connection to the moon position in the father's birth chart. That is called a genetic connection. Why it is karmic? For example, as per the karma only, the spouse is, everybody is getting married to a girl or boy according to the karma. So if the seventh cuspal sublord is not genetic connected, right? Seventh cuspal sublord will have connection to the moon of the spouse. That is called a genetic and karmic connection between the cuspal sublord of your house and moon position in the birth chart of the respective relative by that house. Seventh cusp is respective relative is what is that? Spouse. By that way, we are checking that. Third one is fixing the cuspal sublord of the important cusps by verifying the past events and some particulars. As we discussed in the previous video also, what is the necessity of the verifying the birth time, and also what is the necessity, what is the importance of the cuspal sublord of the primary. Some houses will have impact on the significations, key planets, and timing of event, destiny, all we discussed, right? In a brief discussion we had in the previous video. So that is the one, fixing the cuspal sublord of the important cusps by verifying the past events and some particulars. This is said to be the authentic and reliable method. Which one? The third one. Now let us discuss in detail about the each method, and let us discuss an advantage and disadvantages one by one. Now let us take the first one. Fixing the lagna or ascendant rulers with the help of the ruling planet. That is the first step number one. The ruling planets at the time of analyzing a birth chart will be having some connection to the birth chart in discussion and to the question at that moment. It may have the rulers of the lagna of the birth chart or have the significators of the questions of the houses in question under discussion. It means, suppose we are taking a birth chart for analysis for the event of, for example, for the event of marriage or job prospects or childbirth, whatever may be the purpose, we are analyzing a birth chart. So why we are taking that birth chart at that moment for analysis, there will be some reason, right? It means Almighty has allowed us to examine that birth chart at that moment, at that location, so that ruling planets that are ruling that moment will have connection to the significators of that houses in the birth chart. It means, for example, if you are analyzing a birth chart for the purpose of marriage prospects, the RPs at the time of analysis will have connection to the marriage related houses in the given chart. The RPs, that is ruling planets, may be significator of the favorable 7th house or unfavorable 6th house in the birth chart. Not required that the key ruling planets will be having got either 7 or 11 houses only. Not required to be the favorable houses. It can be unfavorable also. It is indicating that the chart is more on the unfavorable side for the marriage prospect. So ruling planets will have connection to the question in discussion. I think you're able to understand. Suppose if we analyze a birth chart exclusively for the purpose of finding the correct birth time. Suppose we are taking a birth chart as we discussed, some client will be approaching us for finding the birth time. So for some reason, they may not be having the correct birth time or they're having the birth time they're having the doubt on the birth time on their own. They are seeking us to fix the correct birth time. So now the purpose of the analyzing a birth chart is the finding the birth time. So that ruling planet at the time of analysis, since it will have some connection to the purpose or question in discussion, that ruling planet will at the time of analysis will have connection to the lagna of the birth chart, because that moment the event or the purpose is to fix the lagna rulers. The lagna is the one which is fixing the birth time, right? So connection to the lagna of the birth time, the lagna of the birth chart will have connection. It means RPs will help in finding the ascendant rulers of the birth chart and fixing the birth time. It means the ruling planets at the time of analysis will have connection to the question in discussion. Not required that actually it should have connection to the lagna. If the purpose of analysis is for the birth rectification, the ruling planets definitely will have connection to the ascendant ruler. It will help in finding the ascendant rulers. I hope you are able to understand. So, fixing the lagna or ascendant rulers with the help of the ruling planets will be more useful if the purpose of analyzing birth chart is to fix the birth time rectification. Hence, RPs at the time of analysis need not be indicating the ascendant rulers of the birth time all the time. Sometimes it will indicate also. Because at the time of analysis, the ruling planet will have connection to the birth chart. Not required that all the time the ruling planets at the time of analysis will have connection to the ascendant rulers. It definitely will have connection to the, question in discussions. So RPs are the divine help at the moment when astrologer is analyzing a birth chart with urge, and they will help the astrologer by giving necessary and required help for his analysis and predictions. But in case astrologers running dasa periods and transit on that day are not favorable to him or her, he will not get the divine help. Understand? So if the ruling planets or the sorry at the time of analysis, its time period is not good, how come the divine help can be got from the Almighty? So it will not help. It can mislead also. It means you will not be able to not misleading. I can say that. I mean that astrologers may not get the help from the ruling planets. So, fixing the ascendant cuspal sublord by matching to the ruling planets, especially moon rulers, will not be authentic and correct all the time. Many astrologers do follow this technique and trying to adjust the birth time to fix the Lagna cuspal sublord or cuspal subsublord matching to the ruling moon, sign, star, or sub at the time of analysis. Because when they get a chart, so it is their duty to verify the birth time. So they take this state birth time rectification, as a first step, that is correct. But they are going to the ruling planets as if the ruling planets are going to help, especially moon rulers at the time of analysis. It is going to connect to the Lagna, thinking that they are trying to match the Lagna sublord or Lagna sub-sublord. If it is moon sign or star or some, anyway it is coming, they will try to match. But by just reducing or increasing seconds, they will try to match. But if you logically think, that is not correct actually. Why? If they logically think, every time an astrologer takes the same birth chart for analyzing for some question, the ruling planets, moon rulers will not be the same. It will change. In such case, should he keep changing the Lagna sublord or sub-sublord? Or if they are going to change the birth time, changing the sublord means definitely it's going to adjust the birth time. It is not correct, right? The RPs at the time of analysis will have connection to the question we discussed at that moment, not required to be the Lagna of the birth chart. Hope it is clear. Moreover, it is important to keep in mind that just fixing the Lagna sublord alone is not going to be sufficient. How? That we will discuss now. For example, if the Lagna sublord is Mercury, for example, if we will discuss, you take that Lagna sublord is Mercury, which is also in the RPs, and birth time is fixed as 6:10 a.m. For 6:10 a.m., we feel that Mercury is the sublord of the Lagna, and Mercury also present in the ruling planets, especially moon ruler. So people are fixing that birth time is 6:10 a.m. is correct. Suppose this Mercury as sublord as the Lagna will be lasting for another 6 to 7 minutes. If the birth time is between 6:10 to 6:17 a.m., the Lagna sublord will be Mercury only. So we cannot take any time within this range can be the correct birth time, because Lagna sublord is going to be the Mercury, 6:10 also, 11 also, 12 to 17, it is going to be Mercury only, right? So because within 7 minutes difference, though no change in the Lagna sublord, there can be change in cuspal sublord of one or more other cusps. Because of this change, destiny prospects of those housemakers can be modified. Since cuspal sublord of that house is changing, further it will have impact on the self-signification of few planets, since there are changes in the cuspal sublord planets as well as discussed. It means, for example, if you take, imagine Lagna sublord is Mercury, for their birth time is 6:10 a.m. Now you can see the table here below. For 6:10 a.m., first cuspal sublord is Mercury, right? The Mercury will last for till 6:17 a.m. Let us check the possible changes in the 5, 7, 10 cuspal sublord when minutes are increasing but without change in the Lagna sublord in the given table. It means 6:10 to 6:17 a.m. Lagna sublord is going to be Mercury. But when the minutes are increasing from 6:10 a.m., fifth cuspal sublord for the particular chart, imagine it is Jupiter. But 6:12 a.m., suppose Jupiter is in the border, by 2 minutes increase, that sublord will change to Saturn. For 6:12 a.m. person, that fifth sublord is Saturn. 6:10 a.m., fifth sublord is going to be Jupiter. But in both the cases, Lagna sublord is going to be Mercury. So that Saturn is going to be there for 6:12 a.m. for the fifth cuspal sublord. Now, if you look at the seventh sublord, 6:10 a.m. Saturn, 6:12 also Saturn. Saturn is going to be the same planet for seventh sublord, for 6:10 also, 6:12 also. But change only in the fifth sublord. So for the 6:12 a.m. person, destiny will be decided by the Saturn for the marriage, for the child prospect, progeny prospects. But whereas for the 6:10 a.m., Jupiter is going to decide. So they will also be key planets, favorable or mixed key planet when that sublord changes. It will have impact on the Dasar periods, right? And timing of event. 6:14 a.m. what you see? 6:14 a.m. fifth sublord is going to remain the same. Like Lagna sublord is going to remain the same for 6:12 also, 14 also, 17 also. Similarly, Saturn for all the 2 minutes difference or 3 minutes difference, Saturn is going to be the same. But seventh sublord for 6:12 a.m. was Saturn, then 6:14 a.m. changing to Mercury. Next sublord is coming. It is going to be there for 17 also Mercury. But look at the 10th sublord planet. Sun was the 6:10 a.m. As sublord of the 10th house. But 6:12 a.m. Sun is moving towards Moon. Then 6:14 also Moon. When 6:17 is coming, it is changing to Mars. Now you can see for 7 minutes duration, Lagna sublord is going to remain the same, but there will be changes in 2 minutes difference in fifth sublord, seventh sublord, and 10th sublord also. So just you fixing the Lagna sublord is Mercury if it is present in the ruling planets, then how come, we can say that is going to be authentic? Because the few minutes difference that will not have impact on the sublord of the Lagna, but it can have impact on the other cuspal sublords. It will have impact on the destiny and also timing of event. I think we're able to understand. Hence, fixing the Lagna sublord based on the ruling planets may not be authentic. But taking the ruling planets while analyzing a chart exclusively for the birth time process can be helpful in finding the Rasi Lord, Star Lord, Sublord of the Lagna. Suppose if the birth time is given is said as in range 6 a.m. to said 9 a.m. So that birth time will be within 3 hours difference means that Lagna may be in one sign to another sign. So two signs within two signs, that Lagna may be falling. So sign lord will be different, star lord will be different, sublord will be anything, right? So in that process, that ruling planets, when we are going to analyze a birth chart for the purpose of BTR, will help. Even then, that is not going to be completely with the help of the ruling planets alone. We cannot fix it. For that, we should be, analyzing by verifying the past events, some events, and fix it. I think we're able to understand. But verifying the past events and some notable information about the native will help in fixing the cuspal sublord of the important cusp. This will be the correct and authentic method of birth time rectification. I think you are able to understand. Now let us discuss on the next method of birth time rectification. What is that? Genetic and karmic connections. As I was briefing in the beginning, now let us discuss in detail. Verifying the connection of the cuspal sublord of a cusp, denoting a relative with the moon's position in the birth chart of the respective relative. I think you're able to understand. Because suppose if you take the fifth cuspal sublord, 5 is denoting the child, first child. So you take the fifth cuspal sublord that will have connection to the moon position in the child's birth chart. Similarly, ninth cuspal sublord, moon position in the father chart. I think you're able to understand. The cuspal sublord of a specific cusp will have connection to the lagna and also the moon rulers of the relatives indicated by that cusp in the relative's birth chart. Because ruling planets of the that is lagna and moon rulers in the birth chart of your relative will have connection to the respective cuspal ruler. Fifth cuspal ruler will have connection to the moon and lagna of the child. That is the logic, right? Fifth rulers. But we are taking the fifth cuspal sublord alone whether it is connected, because that is the one which is changing within minutes. So instead of checking all the fifth rulers are connecting, definitely will have connection, because that will have connection between the moon ruler and the lagna ruler. They are the ruling planets of the child. That will have connection to the respective cusp rulers. But we are checking the fifth cuspal sublord if it is connecting to the moon rulers, moon position. For that, we are checking this one, right? Note the connection not necessarily to be direct always. It can be indirect also. That is the important point we have to keep it in mind. Suppose fifth cuspal sublord, if it is Mars, if you take the birth chart of the child, the moon may be in the sign of Mars or it is in the star of Mars. If it is there, it is a direct connection, but all the time it may not be the same. So the connection not necessarily to be direct always. It can be indirect also. Importantly, cuspal sublord of a specific cusp, that is, say, for example, moon, the cuspal sublord, or star lord of that cuspal sublord. Suppose Mars, fifth cuspal sublord, is in that is Mars in the star of, say, Jupiter, right? So either Mars or Jupiter will have connection to the moon rulers, especially moon sign or star of the relative's birth chart. It means fifth cuspal moon, fifth cuspal sublord Mars in the star of Jupiter. The Mars or Jupiter will have connection to the child's moon sign or star. For example, we can check if the cuspal sublord of the ninth house or star lord of the ninth cuspal sublord in the native chart is connected to the moon sign or star lord in the father chart, because ninth cusp is denoting the father in the native chart. I think we're able to understand. But please note, the ninth cuspal sublord or its star lord can be directly as moon sign lord or star lord, as we discussed, fifth sublord. Suppose I said, no, ninth sublord if it is moon. Suppose moon in the star of, say, Venus, either the moon or Venus can be directly as the moon sign lord or star lord in the father's chart. It can be, but it can be directly as a sign lord or star lord of the moon or moon sign lord, or it can be indirectly connected by conjunction aspect. It means that the ninth sublord is moon in the star of Venus. That moon can have, moon may be in the sign of moon itself, or moon in the star of Venus, that is direct, or moon in the star of Venus, that Venus is conjoined with the moon or is aspected by moon. Either way, it means directly or indirectly, this ruler of the ninth cuspal sublord and its star lord, either as a sign lord or star lord, or they are by conjunctional aspect, if they are all connected, that is also sufficient. This is as per the rule. Because we cannot expect all the sublords of the ninth house, each, suppose your father is having 4 kids. all the four kids, ninth sublord cannot be the same because father is the same, but all children, ninth sublord will not be the same. But father's moon sign and moon star will be the same. So first child can be one sublord, second child can be another sublord, the third one, fourth one can be different sublord of the ninth house, but somehow or the other they will have connection to the moon of the father, directly or indirectly. That we have to keep it in mind. I think you're able to understand, right? And importantly, in case of node, suppose the node is playing, then connection can be in many ways because node is always, very tricky. We have because it will act as the sign lord also, conjunction aspect. Lot of things can be signified or connected to the node. Note, if a planet is strong ruling planet in the father chart as Lagna and moon rulers, it means he is influenced by the particular planet. For example, if you study the moon ruler or ascendant ruler of the father, that is the ruling planets of the father. Suppose a planet is repeatedly appearing, moon in the sign of Venus. Suppose ascendant star lord is Venus. And suppose moon sublord is Venus. It means Venus is playing role in the ruling planet significantly. That is a strong ruling planet of the in the father chart. He is ruled by the Venus. It means he is influenced by the particular planet. In such cases, that planet role, Venus role, will be significantly influencing the ninth cuspal rulers of the child, right? Because that father is influenced by Venus. So if you take the ninth cuspal ruler, definitely Venus role will be there. So its role will be apparent as cuspal sublord or its star lord in the child's birth chart. It is applicable for all the cusps and the respective relatives denoted by the cusp. I think you're able to understand. It means what? Directly or indirectly, that planet which are denoting the particular relative in the native chart will have connection to the ruling planets in the respective relatives birth chart, especially moon position, moon sign lord or star lord. Now, let us check some examples. Below are the cusps that will have connection to the moon rulers of the specific rulers in their birth chart. What are the relatives, moon and sign and star, cuspal sublime? For wife, 7th house. Father, 9th house. That is 9th cuspal sublord. Father, mother is 4th cuspal sublord. First child is 5th sublord. Second child is 7th sublord. Younger siblings, 3rd sublord. And elder sibling, 11th sublord. This is the way this sublord of these, houses will have connection to the moon sign and star of the respective relative. I think you're able to understand. Hence, verifying the genetic or karmic connection must be taken only as a supportive tool and not as a primary one, because directly or indirectly it may have connection that itself is indicating there is possibility for chances for missing or confusion. It will give a connection. Suppose moon is present and Mars also present. Suppose moon in the star of Mars. Or we will say, suppose ninth cuspal sublord is Venus. Venus is in the sign of moon and star of Mars. Now, if you check the father's moon, moon may be connecting to the moon in its own sign, moon itself, or suppose moon instead of in the sign of moon, that moon may be conjoined with it is the sign of moon and conjoined with the Mars. Now, if the ninth sublord, if it is Venus, it is also conjoined to the moon. If it is Venus, directly not coming as directly as the moon sign lord or star lord, but it is connecting to the moon by conjunction, right? Suppose Mars, that Mars also having connection. So both Venus and Mars are connection is very good connection. So that is very well connected. Sometimes what will happen, ninth cuspal sublord, suppose if it is, say for example, if it is Jupiter, or the next sublord is going to be Saturn, right? Which one is the doubt we are having? Suppose if you take the father's moon, suppose moon in the sign of, say for example, Jupiter in the star of Saturn. Suppose that moon is in the sign of Pisces, Jupiter sign, Saturn star. So if a Jupiter comes as the ninth sublord also will match. Jupiter, Saturn comes as the ninth sublord also will match. So both the way it will match. Sometime Jupiter, moon in the sign of Jupiter, and suppose Jupiter is conjoined with or aspected by Saturn also, that will also be possible to match. So directly or indirectly it can act, it can associate or it can connect. So because of that, we cannot take blindly on this, we can match. But it can be taken as a supportive tool. Sometimes no, that will give us the clue also whether this is better or that is better. And not as a primary tool. And just based on these connections, we should not fix the cuspal sublord of the respective cusps, because this can lead to error as we discussed. For example, for the given birth time, 9 sublord is Rahu. If you reduce the birth time by few minutes, it becomes Mars. The doubt is if the cuspal sublord is Rahu or Mars. As we discussed, it is Jupiter or Saturn. When we check the father's birth chart, suppose moon in the sign of Mars and also conjoined with the Rahu or aspecting to Rahu, or moon in the star of Saturn, whose sign is Rahu is also put in whose sign Rahu also posted. So Saturn is represented by Rahu. So moon is in the father's chart is connected to both Mars and Rahu. It will match in both the conditions. If Rahu also coming, Mars also coming, in both the way it will connect. Similarly, as I was saying that Jupiter and Saturn can have connection to the father's moon, because it's because the both the Jupiter and Saturn consecutive sublords, here also consecutive sublord Mars and Rahu can have connection to the moon position. So because of that, we cannot say Rahu is better or Mars is better, right? Hence, we cannot fix the correct cuspal sublord just based on this. But once the past event or present known events are verified and cuspal sublord of those respective houses are fixed by verifying the past events, which we are going to discuss in the next video. Once we fix that one, the above genetic or karmic connections process between the native and his or her blood relatives or spouse birth chart can also be taken as additional tool in verification and confirmation. So this can be taken as a supportive tool, but that not as the primary one. The important tool is going to be the verifying the past events and fixing the cuspal sublord of the important house. Based on that, we can first verify the events and check the important cuspal sublords. And during this process, we can take these genetic or karmic connections between the sublord of the respective relatives' cusps and in the respective relatives' birth charts moon position. That will be a supportive tool only, that cannot be taken as a primary and authentic method. I think you're able to understand. In this next video, the part number 3, we will discuss on the authentic method by verifying the important past events and some informations what they give about the native with the cuspal position and fixing the cuspal sublord. We'll discuss in the next. Good luck.